This is Two Stoner Detectives.
A true crime podcast.
Welcome back, you guys. I'm Wednesday Adams.
And I am Dale Doback. Stay away from my drum set.
And it's Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yay. We are so excited to be reunited again.
Yes.
It's been so long, but life happens. So what are you going to do?
But we're here. We haven't forgotten. We're still here.
Yes, we're still working behind the scenes. And
Yes.
we're here to bring you our favorite case in the whole entire world.
Freaking love this case. I think we've been obsessed since the moment we've heard about it on Serial.
On the Serial podcast. Really? That was like the first podcast I ever listened to, and it gained so much attention when Sarah Koenig covered the case, and she won Emmy Awards. I mean, the podcast went viral, 100 million whatever uploads, and we want to bring you our perspective of the case.
Yep. Which I'm sure we have a lot to say.
Oh, yeah. So have a seat.
Yes.
And take, bust out your pen, whatever you got, whatever makes you happy. And we're going to start. So the case we're discussing today is the murder of Hae Min Lee. So Hae Min Lee was born in South Korea on October 15th, 1980. She's a Libra sister. We love our Libras.
We do.
Sometimes. So, she would have been turning 43 this month, Bendito. She emigrated with her mom, Yoon Kim, and her brother, Young Lee, to the United States in 1992 when she was 11 years old. She was described as fun, loving, and happy, joyful. Hae was a senior at Woodland High School, which was located in Baltimore, Maryland. And she played lacrosse there and hockey. She was a fucking badass, let me tell you. She was interviewed by the news. We're going to play the video now so you can see.
I played field hockey for 2 years. I've played lacrosse for 3 years, and I also manage boys wrestling.
That's a lot to do. Do you have time to have a job while you're doing this?
Yeah, I try to manage my schoolwork and my after-school work.
All right, so if you ever watched the HBO documentary of this case, you get to hear her thoughts and feelings throughout this entire case, and it's just wow, like it's insane that she left that, she left a piece of her. So
we definitely get to see a part, we get to get an insight and see more of who she really was. And she was just like this girly girl who, was going through teenage problems and teenage love, and
yeah,
you could just tell she was this hopeless romantic. She
yes, exactly. She would write hearts and her boyfriend's name 100 million times on the journal. That stuff we used to do when we were kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's sad. So Hae disappeared after leaving Woodland High School on January 13th. She was supposed to pick up her cousin at 2:15, but never showed up. Her brother knew something was wrong when their family received a call from their cousin's teacher asking them to pick up the cousin because Hae never showed up. Hae's brother called her high school, called her workplace, called her best friend. After a while, their mom told Hae's brother to call the police. Their grandmother came out of Hae's room with her diary, airing her shit out.
Hell yeah.
She's like, yo, her little ass
She's gonna get it. Like,
Yeah, she gonna
right?
yes, exactly. She gonna get it. Everything is in this diary. When shout out to grandma because there was information in that diary. I happened to be a
Yes.
number, and it was written on the same page that Don was written all over. And Don happened to be Hae's boyfriend at the time. His brother dials the phone number, and immediately he knew that it was actually Adnan, Hae's ex-boyfriend.
Okay. So Adnan, by all accounts, he was a straight A student and a student athlete. He was also a Muslim, so his family was very strict, and he wasn't allowed to have any girlfriends outside of the religion. I know there was a struggle in between his relationship with Hae, and they had that struggle of Hae wanted more. Like she wrote in her journal entries a lot about Anon and his religion, and she didn't understand why they couldn't have a normal relationship. So the Baltimore police contacted Adnan the day she disappeared, and he was stoned. It's said that he was stoned when he was contacted. He was asked if he'd seen Hae that day. He said he did not remember if he saw Hae, and he didn't remember if he asked her for a ride or not. Did I ask Hae for a ride? Those were his exact words. The police statement is that Adnan said he was supposed to get a ride from Hae that day, according to some statements, but ended up not getting the ride from Hae. So during the testimony, Adnan asked if they were filing a police report because he was kind of like I said, he grew up in a strict household, and he was just afraid of Hae getting in trouble. So Adnan's thought was that, damn, Hae's going to be in trouble. Allegedly, the cops received an anonymous call by an Asian male caller to investigate on the ex-boyfriend Adnan. So on February 26th, this is like nearly over a month, they interviewed Adnan finally at his father's house. This was like a formal interview, and his father was present. He says he was only concerned about her parents not finding out, and he does not remember his account. He does not remember anything that day. I mean, this is over a month. How can you remember? Like, it's difficult to remember what happened a month ago, on that specific day. But yeah, so that unfortunately, Adnan not remembering what he did kind of like made the investigation a bit difficult.
I mean, can we blame him? Like, sometimes I don't even remember what I did a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So imagine like him having to remember what happened more than a month ago. Oh, that's a lot of pressure. And then like you're freaking out. You're in front of your dad. You don't want your friend to get in trouble. Like imagine what this poor kid is thinking. Ugh. Ugh. So the cops also questioned Don. That's Hae's current boyfriend. And they interviewed him at his home at 1:00 in the morning of the day after January 13th. Allegedly, Don worked till 7 p.m. that day. His time card happened to show that he clocked out at 6. Don's alibi was his mom, who also happened to be the manager at the Landcrafter store that he was working at in Hunt Valley. He was working there to, just help cover the store. He originally worked at the Owen Mills one. Weirdly enough, Don was never a suspect. I think it's kind of weird that the current boyfriend isn't a suspect. I feel like that should just happen by default.
Automatically, I agree.
Right? The printed time card It was also put into evidence, and it showed that he punched in at 9:02 a.m. I'm assuming he punched out for lunch at 1:10, back at 1:42, and then he left at 6. He didn't know that she was missing until 7 p.m. when the lab manager from Owen Mills called asking him if he knew where she was. They started dating in the beginning of the year, January 1st, 1999.
All day, and you haven't spoken to your girlfriend, sir. You get out of work at 7 p.m. and you don't know that she's missing all day?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Like, not even, I don't know, like, I'm assuming, at that time they would like page each other after she got out of school, right? Like, oh, I got out of school. I don't know. I don't know. It's just
Yes, she did have a pager. A beeper?
maybe a
You-
beeper.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, rolled.
I know.
That's
But I would
crazy.
assume that that's how they would keep in touch. Like, she would, one of them would page one of the other. I'm assuming that he would know what time she would get out of high school. And I would assume that she would, let him know about her day. I'm going to do this.
You know what's crazy too? I heard some reports that the cops were trying to get a hold of him, and that's why they weren't able to speak to him until 1:30 a.m. They were reaching out to Don, and
Interesting.
yeah, if he got out at work at 7 p.m., why wouldn't you answer calls from the cops anyway? They weren't able to reach him till 1:30.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Red flags.
Red flag. According to reports, Debbie Warren, which was one of Hae's friends, said that on January 28th, she told the detectives that she spoke to Hae on the 13th. That was the day of her disappearance. And at around 3 p.m., Hae told her that she was meeting Don at the mall after school. Interesting side note is that Adnan claims that Debbie was always more than just a friend. Yeah, I heard that. I watched the documentary, and when he said that, I'm like, Adnan, what are you talking about? So Adnan is a player. I don't know, like a lot of people are saying that he was a little player. Okay, sit on his lap and play with him. Da 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 da. Debbie, who was his friend, said that she was going to pick up her cousin from school, right? And then after picking up her cousin, she was going to meet up with Don later that day. Sadly, though, we don't know if Hay ended up meeting with Don because her body was later discovered on February 8th. February 9th, sorry. Wow, it took that long for her body to be found. She was found in Leakin Park about a month later.
The autopsy report concludes that the cause of death was strangulation, which is kind of like a little shocker because, as always, we know strangulation is something. It's like a personal way to die. Somebody might know you, like someone that strangles you might know you, but also there are like serial killers that
Yeah,
just
true.
that just kill like that. You know what I mean?
True.
So that's interesting. It's interesting that she, that's
Died
how
of strangulation, right? Like anger in a way.
yeah, and rage. Like it
Yeah.
takes a lot to strangle someone to death. Like that's
Yeah.
strength, bro. That's insane. So the medical examiner's opinion says found in a shallow grave in a wooded area, died of strangulation, blunt force injuries to the right back and right side of the head were present. So
Wait.
that tells me, or tells us, is it possible she got beaten and then strangled to death?
Damn.
Right? So the manner of death is homicide. The deceased had not been consuming alcohol beverages prior to her death. Her body was found by Alonzo Sellers, who is a hiker and also has history of, public nudity.
Red flag. Police received an anonymous tip on February 12th, a month later, that they should take a look into Adnan, which I just said prior. His cell phone records. So the police dig into his cell phone records, and they indicate that he called a person named Jay Wiles, and on the day of Hae's disappearance, Jay and Adnan met in middle school and they used to sell weed together and ride bikes together and all of that. And they pretty much they stopped seeing each other after middle school. But then Jay was still around because he kind of was accepted into their like high school group because he was dating a girl named Stephanie. And Adnan talks about it's funny how Adnan talks about how there's separate cliques. It's Aisha, Debbie, Hae is like, Hae and her group of friends. And then there's Jay, Stephanie, and Jen, which is like Jay's group of friends, Jen, who is Jay's friend, said that Stephanie was Jay's prized possession, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Jen also corroborated Jay's story, Jay's testimony. He was with Jen supposedly on the day that Hae went missing and was present. He was also present at the party together. Okay. And so this is 2 days after Jay had confessed that Adnan killed Hae.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped Jay off at home. After the party, he dropped Jay off at home, and then he dropped Stephanie after dropping off Jay. So my question is there, like, I know I said a lot. Why would Jay be okay with being alone with a non taking Stephanie home alone?
Yes.
Does that make
Why
sense?
are you still hanging out with this guy? Yeah,
That killed Hae.
Yeah, this kid just told you that he killed someone, and y'all buried the body together. Why are you still hanging out with this person?
That was a big red flag.
Like,
I said, what?
Be fucking for real. Get the fuck out of here. You're gonna hang out with somebody.
You're gonna listen how he changes his story. Jay changes his story so many times.
So many times. In the first interview, hold on. Yeah, he changed his story a couple times, which makes it even harder to believe anything that comes out of his mouth. The police first interviewed Jay off the record. He claimed that he didn't know anything about Hae's death. Then his story changes. His interview reveals that Adnan showed Jay Hae's body in the trunk. He said that he did not help her bury her body. Jay's testimony is that Adnan told him he planned on killing Hae that morning and that Adnan let Jay use his car and cell phone that day. Jay claims that they were going to the mall to buy Stephanie, Jay's girlfriend at the time, a gift for her birthday, which happened to be on January 13th.
Oui.
Jay borrowed Adnan's car and cell phone, dropped him off at school at lunchtime, and then picked him back up at the track practice. Jay said Adnan had red gloves on when he picked them up.
How did he know that?
Yeah, the police knew that red fibers were found on Hae. After that, Jay claims that he followed him in Hae's car to his house for shovels. They parked Hae's car after they left the park. During the interrogation, it appears the cops were assisting him with his story. Prosecution also, assisted in providing Jay with a defense attorney.
Damn.
Right? Prosecution's case lies on the fact that cell phone ping matches Jay's story. The call in the morning and the pings from Jen's home and park where Hae's body was found.
Wow.
Jay also led police to Hae's car, which was right under their nose. You think, how would Jay know where the car was if everything was made up? But I feel like, people also underestimate the degree of how far cops are actually willing to go, to bend the truth to fit their damn story. Like, stuff like this actually happens. Innocent people go to jail because cops are too fucking lazy to do the work, and they rather
Probably every day.
Yeah, it's so sad to think. Oh my god. So there's also a picture of Hae's car on a grassy lot where it was found. And supposedly, it was sitting there for 6 weeks. And think about it. This is like after storms, snow, ice, but her car was clean. And also, the grass part next to her had been completely dead. But under Hae's car, it was perfectly, green. There was even like grass in her tires that were green. So it's possible that Hae's car could have been placed there. Because, if it's like the grass was brand new, like it wasn't being touched, nobody was parking on top of it, nobody was messing up the grass. So that's why the grass next to her car was already dead from people actually parking there. So that's interesting.
Wow. So Adnan was arrested on February 28th, 1999. He was charged with first-degree murder under the theory that he killed Hae Min Lee and that Jay helped him get rid of the body. Jay later was charged with accessory to murder. The first trial was declared a mistrial after the jury overheard the judge accusing Adnan's attorney Christina Gutierrez of lying. That was crazy because like during the trial, the judge like blatantly called Christina Gutierrez a liar, and she's like, how can I allow the jury see this? Of course, that's why it was a mistrial. On the second trial, Adnan was found guilty of first-degree murder, robbery, false imprisonment, and kidnapping. They sentenced him to life in prison plus 30 years in 2000. Jay was given a plea deal, and he did not receive any jail time.
Accessory to murder, but no jail time.
Nothing at all. He only got probation for like 3 or 6 months, dude.
That is wild. You helped bury a body and no jail time?
That's insane. Jay was given the plea deal and he didn't get any jail time. Evidence found. They found a rope, necklaces, her t-shirt, her jacket. Her outfit was so cute. It was like a white jacket, and a skirt. They were never tested for DNA. I mean, I get it. It's 1999, and I know that they're working on this right now. They finally tested in 2018, and they could not find DNA to match Adnan's DNA. They weren't able to find that. Then they were able to pull a profile on the rope, and it didn't match Adnan. The profile on the rope belonged to an unidentifiable female, and the case basically revolves around around Jay's testimony and his statement that to the police when he was interviewed that day, and the police were just going along with the narrative that was the death was caused by Adnan and it was a fatal attraction.
No concrete evidence, no DNA, nothing.
Nothing.
To like pin him to the actual case, and they just went along with this story.
That's so crazy. No evidence.
Disgusting. In 2003, Adnan appealed his conviction and was denied. In 2010, he appealed for a post-conviction release due to the alibi witness who was ignored, Asia McLean. This was due to Gutierrez's mistakes. Asia, she stated that on that day of Hae's disappearance on January 13th, she remembers seeing Adnan at the library. She remembers that day because it was 2 days before they were off from school due to a big snowstorm. Asia also looked at her day planner and she put 2 and 2 together. They met at the library and they talked about Hae. They talked about Hae. They talked about her, his relationship with the new boyfriend, Don, and he just wanted Hae to be happy. She said that she went to see Adnan's relative to let the family know about her seeing Adnan at the library.
Mhm.
But she said it felt that they didn't think it was too important at the time. So instead,
Mm.
she wrote a letter to Adnan that same day. And she said in the letter, maybe her accounts of that day would help his case. She
Yeah.
didn't trust, going to law enforcement. So instead, she planned on seeing Adnan's lawyer, and she wanted to like set something up so they could all talk. And she wanted to see Adnan face to face and
Yeah.
talk about what happened.
That makes sense. And that was important too. It's great that the lawyers made a motion because her testimony could have made a difference in the case because there's an alibi there. Like,
Yep.
he was seen in that school at that time. So Adnan uh he was cleared of all charges in September of 2022, last year, you guys. He was released in September of 2022, and in January of 2023, Lee's brother, Young Lee, he filed a motion. Tito, I feel bad for the family because, of course, you want justice for your sister, for your daughter, and they feel like it feels like to them. I mean, I assume it could feel like they were stripped of that by
Yeah.
letting him loose.
Mm-hmm. They probably feel
So
like robbed.
yeah. So they filed a motion and around October of 2022, there was a hearing in which the charges were dropped. That's when the charges were dropped against him. And the Lee family argued that the prosecutors infringed upon Marilyn's victims' rights and the short notice given to the family. So, about the hearing. So, the latest is that in March of 2023, a Maryland appeals court reinstated his conviction and sentence. So they're ordering a new hearing to determine whether he should remain free. Rabia Chowdhury, which is a family friend, she's also a lawyer. She helped him a lot in his case. She was the one that went to Sarah Koenig with the story originally, just to try and get some help. She needed some help. She was an advocate for Adnan, and she said, and I quote, "We stand by the integrity of the evidence that exonerated Adnan and urge the Baltimore police and the state's attorney's office to find the source of the DNA on the victim's shoes and to find Hae Min Lee's actual killer."
So let's talk evidence.
Yes.
So the cell phone records from Adnan led the cops to the location of Jen's residence where the phone pinged from.
Okay.
That's how Jen eventually was interviewed. Jen was approached by the investigators and she went to Jay immediately. And Jay said, well, tell him to come to speak to me.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? Like, testy. So the cell phone records fax cover from AT&T actually says that the pings that connect to towers from incoming calls are not accurate. Only calls that are outgoing are accurate. And in the trials, the calls that were being used were all incoming calls. None of them were outgoing calls. Yes. And what's effed up is that this did not come up in the trial. I guess the lawyer never saw this piece of evidence. And there was actually some guy that took the stand and he kind of like was like, he pretty much said that the calls do ping to these towers. Later saw it in the documentary that I can't remember who the lady was, but she reached out to the same guy. At first, the guy says that he doesn't want to be any part. We're assuming he might have been like, like bullied into not saying anything. But then there was more questions asked, and he actually wrote an affidavit, pretty much like taking back what he said in the trial after seeing the facts cover. So that kind of, like that kind of weighs out a little bit for Adnan in a good way.
That's crazy. They use the pings as evidence, like literal evidence, and it's not accurate.
It's not accurate. It's not accurate. Talk about lividity. It means which way the blood in the body pools. In the autopsy report, it shows that the blood pooled to the front.
Okay.
Jay's story is that she was killed between 2:30 and 3 o'clock, then puts her in the trunk, then buries her around 7:30. So livor mortis would have set in the position that she was in the trunk.
Put in the trunk.
In the trunk, yeah. She was found laying down on the right side in the park. But according to medical examiners, Hae's body showed livor mortis, which is the pattern of blood of someone's body, which was present in her face, her chest, her stomach, the front of her legs, which means that she was laying completely face down. Yeah, for 8 to 10 hours, which also means that her body had not been moved for that long.
Wow.
Additionally, that would mean that she was buried after midnight or around 10:30, the very earliest.
Wow. And that is insane. And if that's the case, then those pins from 7 p.m. or whatever the hell, those are not accurate because they would have then buried her after midnight.
Yes,
yes,
they would. Oh my God, good. Oh, that's a good
crazy. Oh, poor girl. So there's some theories, we have on this case, and one of them is Don may have done it because he was jealous of Adnan. I don't think he was interrogated the way Adnan was.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not right, honestly.
And what's weird is that wasn't Don like 28 years old?
Don didn't even go to school. Like, he had a full-time job. He was working all day at LensCrafters.
Damn near in his 30s, damn near close to his 30s, dating a high school girl.
No, that's
that's weird.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag. Another theory is that Adnan killed Hae because she left him for Don. Dun dun dun.
I mean, that's what everyone believes, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's what everyone believes. Yeah.
And what's crazy about that is, like, because you hear accounts from everyone saying that Adnan was a player. Him and the breakup, he took it lightly. Like, he was just doing him. Like, why would he be so brokenhearted about this whole situation and want to kill her for saying on?
He was known to be a little flirt, a little papi chulo in high school. So I don't think like he would be so heartbroken to the point where like, I'm gonna kill this girl. And then another thing, you mentioned, he grew up in a strict home. Muslim home, strict home, couldn't have girlfriends. Like, this kid couldn't even get phone calls from girls. So to think that a kid that grew up in a household like that, like, how would he have the time and how would he get away with murder? Like, how would he try to hide a murder? You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. Like it would have, everyone would have noticed that something was wrong with him, right? And it was just like he was just acting normal. You can hear it in his voice and everything. He's just
Yes.
so weird.
Everyone had just nice things to say about him, right? Like, think about Jeffrey Dahmer. Everyone knew Jeffrey Dahmer was a fucking weirdo. Like every serial killer, someone has to say that they were always weird. Like, oh, I always knew something was wrong with them. I always knew, like, they look like the type to do it.
Right, right.
And most of the time, they are the type to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
He had a clean record.
Yeah.
He would go to he would go on retreats with his dad.
He was like a good ass kid. I don't know.
Insane. Another theory is that Jay admitted to doing it because the cops had something on him.
I can see it happening.
So he possibly did it and pinned it on Adnan. Is another theory, and I can see that happening because of his track record. You know.
And also, wasn't he like, I don't know, I can see him being jealous of like how him and Stephanie were.
Adnan and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Adnan won Prince at the dance. And Stephanie won the princess at the dance. Remember that?
Yes.
And what sticks out to me always is that in her diary, how she explained that night, how that night was so beautiful to her.
Yes.
And, you know, like the prom prince and princess, they're supposed to dance a song together. And with Casey and Jojo came on, like he knew that Hae loved that song, and she goes, and guess what? He took me out to dance instead of dancing with Stephanie. Like,
Vito.
I know, that's so freaking sad.
He was smooth with it. He was like, nah.
Yeah.
Baby girl over there, because I know baby girl love this song. Real smooth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lethal.
So another theory is Roy. There was a rapist in town who murdered a girl by strangulation within months apart. And that girl also attended the same high school. That's insane, because this is so very possible. Like, this is like your number one suspect.
Yes.
What the heck?
They should have definitely looked more into that. Like, what are the odds?
They botched this entire investigation. I feel so bad for the family, and the family is like adamant that it's Adnan, which is another thing. Like,
which is like not fair to themselves, because they should, like DNA is showing that Adnan didn't show up, anywhere near Hae stuff, and other DNA is showing up. So I feel like they should get, no, I shouldn't even talk on how anyone grieves. Like, everyone should grieve differently. But it just sucks that they are like, I feel like they probably feel like we already caught someone for Hae's murder. Like, why are we, if it's not broken, don't fix it type of thing.
Right.
I feel bad because they want that closure, and it's probably like opening up a wound for them.
Right.
So it just sucks.
Hard. There's a lot of red flags in this case.
Too many. But here are some of ours. So, one red flag: why didn't her boyfriend and her friends help in the search for Hae when it was discovered that she went missing?
Don was very nonchalant during the interview. He was like nonchalant, like, I just don't see that.
And also, like, I think back at the time, it was what, like 99? So they also probably didn't think the worst. They probably were like, you know what, and it wasn't it said that they all like that she wanted to like move to California or like she wanted to just get out of there. So they probably thought that she had already like ran away or something.
I know that they said about the party that they were just hoping she'd show up. I don't know. Like I'm sure like they were having bad weather. I know there was like a
Yeah.
snowstorm. Like what? I understand that. Like there's just so much you can do, but it is sucky.
And your first instinct is to like be like, why wouldn't they go look for their friend? I would question the boyfriend more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, granted, they probably were dating for only like 2 weeks, but still, like puppy love. You're not worried.
They told, well, the story even called him, his LensCrafter called him to let him know she was missing,
Mhm.
and he didn't do anything. And the cops didn't reach him until like 1:30. And if you're telling me that her body could have been buried around midnight and they weren't able to reach him until 1:30 a.m.,
Facts.
that's a red
Ooh.
flag.
That is a little red flag.
Yo, we're true detectives. I'm sorry. We're solving cases episode by episode.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel. No one can tell me
No
different.
lies told. No lies told.
All right. Another red flag is that Ton's mom, of course, dun dun dun, his mom and stepmom were covering up for him. They were basically the managers at LensCrafters, and the timesheets that were provided as evidence showed a new employee code. Usually, the employee code is changed he wasn't a new employee. So how could he have a new employee code on the timesheet? It was just odd. It was
Yeah.
so just we'll have to do a part 2 on
Yeah, it's another rabbit hole.
It's another rabbit hole is timesheets. Look it up. It's Undisclosed Podcast. Shout out to Undisclosed Podcast for picking that up.
Word up. Shout out. Another red flag is the way that the blood pooled. She was face down flat for 8 to 10 hours after her death. That's based on the way that the blood pooled. And that doesn't coincide with the way that Jay explains seeing her body in the trunk laying on her side. So this suggests that her body was moved before it was found in Lincoln Park.
Definitely a red flag. We mentioned that before, but that's huge.
That
because
is huge.
Science is
This is science.
This is science, exactly.
And you know that's always my argument.
Yes.
You cannot deny science. I'm sorry. You just can't. It's a fact is a fact.
Another red flag. How did Jay know about the red fibers found on Hae and the location of their car if not told by someone like authorities, maybe? Red flag.
Red flag. And I can't picture him like, like covering for someone else or like some made up story. Like the only thing that I can think of is that he was told by the cops what to say. He was coached on what to say.
If you listen to this interrogation, it sounds like he's being told what to say.
Like the vibe, and then you hear a lot of like tapping.
Yes.
You hear it, and then he'll be like, "Oh no, wait," and then he'll like retell the story again.
This is just,
And like each story is like with another added detail.
you guys, I can't believe his testimony is what locked this man up.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So another red flag is that Jay says he told Chris, but Chris was never interviewed. Chris claimed that Jay tells him a story that he was at a pool hall, and Adnan shows up and shows him the body in the trunk. But Jen is saying that he told her Adnan showed him the body at Best Buy.
This is what I'm saying about this guy.
There's too many.
There's too many different inconsistencies. He told Jen he saw her body in the trunk at Best Buy, and he told Chris that in the pool hall that's when Adnan showed it to him. What the fuck? What is it?
Yeah, which one is it?
Another red flag. Jay's ex-girlfriend said in a documentary in 2016, Jay told her he was there and it was true, but then he said that he ratted out Adnan to get himself out of the cops finding a ton of drugs on him. He confessed to his ex-girlfriend this, but of course we don't know what to believe out of his mouth.
Yeah. Another red flag is Asia's affidavit from 1999, which she wrote. And when presented in court, the prosecutor lied and said that she had recanted her story, and the family pressured her to write the affidavit. She said she felt manipulated and lied from prosecution about DNA being tested against Adnan. That is so messed up.
That's
That is
fucked
so
up.
messed up.
Yo, I heard the prosecution's testimony about Asia, and he said on the stand, he said that Asia was pressured by the family to write the affidavit, and Asia insists that no, that she wasn't pressured. That's fact.
In fact, like, oh, that's so effed up. And she's young. She doesn't know any better. She's gonna listen to the cops.
Crazy.
She didn't know any better. But I'm happy that there was at least that alibi that puts him in the place during the same time of her, allegedly the time that she was murdered.
So if they go to trial again, they have this alibi, they would have DNA, so it'll be a stronger case for him.
Yeah.
But right, do you think Adnan is guilty?
I don't think Adnan is guilty. I still say I never thought he was guilty.
I think from the very beginning, like you and I, we talked about Serial after listening to the whole thing. We've known each other that long.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like, and then it was just, you always stood to like, you always said he was, and I, on the other hand, always felt he was guilty.
He was guilty, yep.
But
I'll be like, I'll try to like present it to you. I'm like, no, but like, what about this? Or what about this?
Yeah, that's like one quality I love about you, how like you see things like from every perspective possible, and you don't like allow anything to just like sway you one way or the other. Me, like when it's in my head that a person's guilty, like I just like continue down that rabbit hole and find everything, which is not good. But I did feel that, and after hearing all of this, I'm leaning more towards his innocence.
His innocence. And I think it's just based on all the evidence, like everything that was missed, everything that was said and then turned out to be a lie, and then how a lot of things just don't make sense.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
I would say this though, like even if he's guilty or not, there was not enough evidence to charge him. What's crazy is that the jury came out with the verdict within 2 hours. Like it's just like, look, we got let's see, we've been on this for about an hour, and
Mhm.
we didn't even cover most of it.
Most of it, yes.
The jury came up with a verdict within 2 hours. What are you talking about?
Yep. This is a teenager's life. And you guys just like dismissed it like it was nothing. And guilty or not, we can all agree that this wasn't even a fair trial. This was not a fair trial. They did this kid dirty. But he ain't guilty. Free my boy. I mean, my boy is free. But
you guys, I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, send us comments, send us some love, let us know what you think.
yes, tell us how much you missed us.
And do you believe if he's guilty or not? Comment on our video, let us know.
Let us know. Yes. Thank you so much, guys. We love you so much.
We love you.
See you next time.
Later.